Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very cold MKM Stadium. You can probably, I'll start with an apology. You can probably hear my voice. As late as Thursday, I didn't really have a voice. So I'm going to soldier on and try and deliver a decent verdict. But I apologise if my voice is a little bit skew with. Hopefully it's okay. And it comes through and you can hear me loud and clear. It's finished here. Hull City 1, Norwich City 1. Disappointing week for Norwich, all told. Let's start with the big picture stuff. 2 points from a possible 9 against teams 15th or below. Obviously, after that Watford win, a huge opportunity to get points on the board, to push into the top 6, to prove this season maybe could be a little bit more than the transitional campaign that perhaps we expected. That hasn't been shown. And I think it's a week that probably from an outcome perspective will be really frustrating for Norwich and obviously the supporters who, after Watford away, were just daring to dream that maybe they could just broaden the horizons a little bit on what this campaign could be. And that hasn't been the case. And ultimately, it will be the performances in those 2 home games rather than today, which are the ones that I think Norwich will look back on with real frustration, feeling that they should have done more, could have done more, and could have got more points from this week than they have. They sit, I think, 12th in the table, 11 wins, 11 draws, 11 defeats. That probably paints the picture of what this story has been, this season has been. Sorry, very push and pull, very up and down, very inconsistent. And when you have to, as Norwich have done today, play their 17th midfield trio in 33 games, it's probably no little wonder that they're so inconsistent, that they're struggling to find rhythm in games. And I actually felt it probably contributed to a really slow start here today in this game where, Sorensen, Wright, Slimani, not to pin it all on them because it was a collective thing, but Norwich didn't get their press right. The midfield was too flat. I felt that, Wright and Slimani were a little bit too deep. That allowed Hull to pick up the ball in deeper areas. Norwich's then the front three were pressing quite aggressively, and they was leaving a lot of gap. And Hull then exploited what was space in wide areas. Gelhardt in particular, a real threat, and that's where the goal came from. Ball to him, really good touch outside to Coyle, zipped ball in. Crooks is so good at doing this throughout his championship career, timing a run into the box to get on the end of it and apply a finish. And actually, we've got some frames from our photographers of that goal. And the lack of sort of Norwich City bodies, Norwich City midfield bodies that are in and around Crooks for that moment probably tells you all you need to know. And Norwich were just tepid in the opening 15 minutes, just couldn't really get any rhythm, any control of the game, anything going. And Hull exploited that, and they took probably the only real opportunity they created. There was one after, I think, 5 minutes where Gelhardt was played in behind, and Angus Gunn produced a good save. And they sort of had a lot of territory without maybe conjuring up the type of opportunities they would have liked. But it felt like it was coming when Hull scored the opening goal, and Norwich could have no complaints about that. But from minute 15 to minute 90, I thought Norwich were the better team in this game and had more control and created better opportunities. And on the basis of the opportunities they did create, we should be stood here today talking about a consecutive away win for the first time since January 2023. But alas, we're not. I felt that, the final 15 minutes of the first half, Norwich wrestled control of it and were beginning to work some really good opportunities. They were getting Jurasek on the ball. They were getting Sainz on the ball. They were working and fashioning opportunities, but probably some really poor crossing on both flanks, to be fair, from fullbacks, wingers, Mahovo, Fisher, Jurasek, Sainz as well, meant that though they weren't really cashing in those opportunities. There was a brilliant moment where Jurasek turned a defender inside out, worked himself into a brilliant opportunity, flashed an excellent cross across the 6-yard box, and Sargent, Sainz and Slimani had all made the same run to the front post, and that kind of illustrates what they were lacking. There were a lot of crosses as well that just didn't get past the first man, didn't really pose enough of a threat. But in terms of control, Norwich wrestled it. Hull were happy to sort of retreat into a low block, but that was, again, partly down to what Norwich did and how they changed. They pushed their midfield two a little bit higher. They were engaging a little bit higher. That then allowed them to just wrestle a bit more territory from Hull and get their possession going. Callum Doyle was probably intrinsic to keeping that tempo. And what I liked about that element of the performance more generally today is there were better structure to their play compared to what we saw against Derby last weekend, but also the little passes that you have to play to break a low block is you have to take the risky ones where you've got a man close and bounce them, and it opens up space for you. And they did that with a lot better degree of success, I felt. And again, at half-time, probably deservedly behind. But the second half, I thought they were excellent. And again, they created and fashioned enough opportunities to win this game, particularly when shortly after the second half whistle sounds to start their level. And for all of the criticisms and all of the frustrations with the crossing in the first half, Kellen Fisher produced an unbelievable cross in the second. A brilliant decoy run by the squirrel that was on the pitch at the time, which is something I've never seen before, just down here, actually. It literally looked like the game was going to be stopped because there was a squirrel on the pitch. Then he tried, I think, to rob the ball off Kellen Fisher, and then made a darting run forward. But it was a brilliant cross, and Josh Sargent does what Josh Sargent does. Times the run to perfection, gets across his man. Really good glancing header across the goal, in off the post to make it 1-1. And from there, it really felt like there was only going to be one winner in this game. And Hull, had a couple of spells where they had a lot of huff and puff, but didn't really conjure up an opportunity. Probably the best opportunity they had of the half was when Callum Dorr gave the ball away from a short goal kick, and Joseph's shot was held by Angus Gunn. Beyond that, a couple of half chances. Burstow had a header at the back post, but they didn't really work Norwich City's defensive line or goalkeeper at all, to be honest. Norwich, on the other hand, did have opportunities. Their best one from Borja Sainz from a corner where it was crossed to the back post. Sorensen, I think, got something on it. Not quite sure if it was his head or his chest or his shoulder. Falls to Sainz. First shot blocked. Second shot off the post. Third shot just deflects agonisingly wide. They had other really good opportunities as well. There was one where Schwartau burst away, fed it to Jack Stacey on the right. Brilliant cross. Cianats is just ahead of the ball. If he is basically a tenth of a second later, the ball hits him, deflects, and goes into the back of the net. And that's what we're talking about being the margin of difference here this afternoon between what was a Norwich City point and a Norwich City win. I think this feels a better point than the last weekend because it's on the road and the nature of it, albeit I'll have a really poor record here. I think they have improved under Ruben Sayers. They're a bit more pragmatic. They're in games. I know they've lost the last three here, I think, or three of the last four, but by and large, they've been by one goal margin. They've gone away to Sheffield United and won. They've drawn with Leeds here. So I think they have shown in flashes they're maybe a better team than their league position suggests. But Norwich, I think, will feel incredibly frustrated because after what has been a very difficult week for them at Carrow Road and where they've let really good opportunities between their fingers against Derby and against Preston, to get the performance where it was today for 75 minutes and to not come away and win the game, I think they will be incredibly frustrated by because they had the opportunities, they had the control, they had the level of possession and converted that into opportunities, which was a major criticism of them on Tuesday. They just couldn't find that sucker punch, that final action to put this game beyond all doubt, which they deserve to do, I felt, on the measure of their performance. So, frustrating point, but for different reasons, more positive reasons. And it was the type of performance, I think, that shows what they're trying to do here can be successful, providing obviously there's quality to match up the final action. And that was probably, the difference between the last 15 minutes of the first half and the second half, where they had lots of possession. They were feeling their way back into the game. They created a lot of crossing opportunities, a lot of really positive situations in the final third, but just didn't have the quality to match it. In the second half, it felt like they did, and they were combining control with chance creation. I think Hull a couple of times jumped when they shouldn't have done. They gave Norwich City opportunities and space to work. There were a few moments where they had openings on either side. Mahova had a shot that was blocked. Jack Stacey got away. Lewis Dobbin got away towards the end and tried to find Sainz at the back post, and that was cleared. Sainz had a sighter from range, two sighters from range, one that was saved, one that was sort of whistled over the bar late on. So they created enough here to win this game, and that will be the frustration, I think, because the second half was very good and was needed. It was the type of response in terms of performance that we wanted. But people look at results, and the result is a frustration, particularly when you consider the home record that Hull have here this season, where they've only won 2 games, where they're just hovering outside the bottom 3. But you see it, and the Championship has proven it over the last week. It's you can't take games for granted when you think that maybe there's a game that looks a little bit easier in paper or looks like one that you can sort of tentatively pencil 3 points next to. It has an awful way of catching you on the chin. And for all of the frustrations that we've had this week of Norwich City not being up the level, they didn't in the opening 15 minutes, and that 15 minutes has probably cost them what would have been 3 really good points here this afternoon. Alas, it's not to be, and they find themselves where they find themselves. So that's the way it goes. I thought Hull were a lot more pragmatic than obviously what we saw at Carrow Road, where they were so open and just gave chances away pretty readily. So Yeah, look, it's an okay point. I wouldn't say it's a great point. I wouldn't say it's a bad point in the circumstances. But this is a game that Norwich City should have won and should have aspirations to win. And probably on a lot of days, if they repeated this game and this performance, they would have won, but not today. I wanted to mention Jacob Wright. Obviously, he was thrust in the deep end on Tuesday night against Preston, 20 minutes before kickoff, thrown in that number 6 role. All the complications and difficulties that come with it. Is a very information loading position. Norwich City put a lot of emphasis on it, a lot of information into those players. And for a 19-year-old who hasn't played much senior football to step into that at any point would have been tough. To step into that 20 minutes before kickoff was even harder to replace Kenny McLean. I thought he struggled on Tuesday night. Today, I thought he was much better. There were 3 times today in the opening 15 minutes where he just tried to open his body and play a pass out to the right and didn't get any of them right. But from there on in, really, and his sort of game coincided with Norwich's. I thought it was a very nervy, very shaky opening 15 minutes. But from there on in, I thought he was excellent. Tidy, set the tempo, helped Norwich in terms of their ball retention. So pleased with that today. I thought they took, first half, they probably didn't take enough risks. Second half, we saw that, and they played through Hull a number of times to create those opportunities and probably showed the type of football that I wanted to see from them after Tuesday night. A lot more proactive, a lot more intense to construct those opportunities, and he was a key reason with that, really. And you could see a real marked change just how him and Slimani got further forward. And I thought technically that midfield was sound today for all of maybe the pre-match concerns about energy and legs, and I think they were sort of justified really in the opening 15 minutes. Norwich didn't press right, but when they changed it after the goal, they were in control. And Wright, I felt was excellent, not just in terms of his possession, but also in terms of his defensive actions. I thought Jurasek looked good as well, tired a little bit towards the end, but in the first half was a real bright spark, getting at his fullback, squaring him up 1v1, wanting to beat them, wanting to make something happen, and that cross across the box. Again, if all 3 players don't make the same run, and Borja Sainz, who I just feel some of the old habits are creeping back into his game a little bit, where he's drifting a little bit out of position, where it looks like he's overcomplicating things a little bit. If he keeps to his position, if he doesn't drift, he should have an easy tap in for that cross to equalise. So some really bright spots from Jurasek on his first start. I thought Lucian Mahovo probably had as tough an afternoon as he's had, albeit events are very good. Joe Gelhardt on loan from Leeds. You can see the quality that he possesses in the threat, and actually he had a really good chance in the second half where he squared Mahovo up, came inside and shot towards the near post. Luckily for Norwich, it was off target and went just wide. But I thought Mahovo really struggled in that first half, albeit wasn't getting a lot of defensive protection from Sainz and or others in front of him. And particularly in the opening 15 minutes, probably got exposed a little bit 1v1 too often against Gelhardt and was unable to live with that when Coyle came and probably created that doubt in his mind. But he's a young man. These games are going to happen. It's going to be about trials and tribulations for him. And it will have been a good learning curve. Obviously, I've spoken about Sainz a little bit. Sargent came off again towards the end. Clearly, a side Norwich still feeling maybe that he's not quite at a stage where they can get him 90 minutes. And it's difficult because I can see the arguments on both sides, really. If you're a fan and the game is going the way this game is going, you want to keep him on the pitch. You want to ensure that last opportunity does fall his way and he does convert. But equally, the situation in this season has been hampered by so much injury, so much unavailability, so many key players out injured. I can understand why Norwich City are wrapping him up in bubble wrap, to be honest, and being ultra cautious. Is there probably a happy medium to be found on that? I think there probably is. He got taken off after, 60 on Tuesday. Could he have gone 85? Could he have gone 90 today? I think he probably, I'm not a sports scientist, but, it felt like he probably could have done, particularly with, obviously a little bit more pace around him just to take some of that physical load off him, perhaps even bringing Sinats on as a 2 and going to a back 3, I think could have been an option. They opted not to do that. And look, from Torres' perspective, I can understand why, because he's so crucial to this team. It's 5-5 for him now, and they do need him, for the games that are to come and with a clear week. And actually, the next 2 games are Stoke. You've got a clear week to that. And then obviously a clear week to Blackburn as well. You would expect him now to play 90 minutes in those 2 games. He's been about, 7 weeks or so. You'd hope he's in a position where he's able to do that. Callum Doyle as well. He'll miss Norwich City's next 2 games for booking. It was a foul that needed to be made. Duffy got beat on halfway. It was a tactical foul on halfway from him. He's going to be suspended now. 10 bookings is a 2-game ban, so he'll miss Stoke and Blackburn. That will obviously provide an opportunity, you would imagine, for Jose Cordoba to come back into the team and to try and stake his claim as well. So, which is a shame, because I think I'd have probably been inclined for next weekend to push Doyle across to left back and put Cordoba in there, but Norwich City won't have that luxury now, so I suspect Mahova will keep his place. Look, 3-game week, frustrating for Norwich to take 2 points from 9, under par. I think it's hard to say anything other than that. Under par in terms of performances as well. Obviously, Derby last weekend, where I thought their possession was stale. Tuesday night, where they were just flat and off it all the way through. And today, opening 15 minutes, I thought was poor, but I thought their performance was much better. I thought it was a better response than what we've seen. So, yeah, hopefully, if they can, I think Stoke at home next weekend, really, you look at not as a must-win, because they're where they are, I think, in terms of mid-table, but I think it would be handy if they could win that and get some momentum going again, because the way the table is, it's still not cut and dried, that top 6, but equally they are going to need to step out and push their claim forward if they want to get in there. Not that I feel they're probably ready for that or capable maybe of doing that this year, because they've been so inconsistent. And key of that is the midfield, as I mentioned. No Kenny McLean here today, and that respiratory issue, which I can very much sympathise with him at the moment, is not helping. Marcelino Nunez out as well. Hopefully those two will be back next weekend, all being well, fingers crossed, and things begin to look a little bit healthier again, because the 5 games that Norwich have played prior to today, this is number 6, where McLean and Nunez haven't started, they haven't won any of them. So that goes to show sort of where they're at. I wrote a column this morning in terms of the midfield dynamics. This was a 17th pairing, 11 different players in that area of the pitch this season. And that underscores the point. You're not going to have consistency or rhythm, particularly the way Norwich want to play, when you're possession heavy and when you rely on having control in games. That is such an intrinsic area to what Yanisov Torup wants to do. And if you don't have the options consistently and the continuity and the players capable of doing that, and I think probably the opening 15 minutes displayed that drop off, albeit I felt Wright and Sorensen and Slimani were pretty decent after that, then at this level it's costly. And Norwich City need to get to a base. I think it's 10 games they've had this season with McLean, Nunez, Sainz and Sargent as a quartet in their team. And that probably underscores why they are where they are, because of that lack of unavailability. So, yeah, frustrating week. This feels slightly different as a point to Derby, but as a whole package against teams who are 15th or under, to get 2 from 9 is not really a great return for Norwich City. Stoke at home next weekend. Let's hope we're talking about a Norwich City win. I'm going to sign off before my voice leaves me. Thank you very much for watching. Pinkin.com, of course, the place to go for plenty more analysis and reaction to this game. And from the MKM Stadium, as it is known these days, good night.